Who's the Butterface? Ain't me. Hot and so hot it hurts. We're at the tail end of a heat wave in BC, and I've barely survived. For some reason, today's choreography, BTS's Butter, has required one of the hottest costumes I've worn the entire pandemic year. I think maybe this costume would have been more appropriate during the Canadian winter, but sometimes things work out the way they work out. Do I want to start dancing first? Yeah, I feel like dancing first, and then I'll talk more in a bit. This jacket, it's hot as fuck. See if I can pop the collar and have that last for the whole performance. This jacket is too hot. I would take it off in between while I talk. Oh, this one's hot. And the other clothes, the pants, are tight. So sometimes costumes add more in terms of aesthetic than they do functionality. I've tried to find a balance between the two, and I think I've done so most of the time, but sometimes you have to suffer for your art, and here I am suffering. On Money Mondays, I introduced my little Marimo mossball friends, and they've continued to recover. As a short summary, I visited Hokkaido, Japan, and bought Marimo mossballs from their famous Lake Akan home. I subsequently then ignored them like a shitty abusive parent. Now people know why I'm anti-natalist and child-free. In any case, I think we did the bare minimum to keep these Marimo mossballs alive, but I'd still argue that they've had no proper care for essentially 8+ years, going on a decade. So for some reason on Sunday, I came across them a couple of days ago, and I thought to myself, maybe they're still alive. Because honestly, I've come across them on my shelf a couple of times during the pandemic, but for some reason, my mind had already defaulted to the fact that they were probably dead. But for some reason, Sunday my mind changed. That's because on the Friday before the Sunday, something tragic happened right near where I am. a weird circumstance that made me question life again. To be honest, I'm one of those introspective people who tends to think and rethink my whole value system with any little new evidence. In this case, it was big new evidence, because it just reminded me that I really should move boldly and passionately towards the things that I love to do. I'm in the fortuitous position of actually knowing roughly what I love to do, and the last decade has been me just trying to figure out what I love more amongst the things I love. That's a tall order, actually, but I've been able to execute along the lines of what I could best expect. The reason why the Marimo have a specific place in my heart is because I bought them on the near beginning of my adventure travel career. I'm hoping that I can dedicate to their proper care. To be fair, they obviously require very little care, but now that I've revived them from brownish black to a green color, I want to keep them green. Although last time on Money Mondays I joked that maybe they actually liked being black-brown, like me. They had a dirt tan. What I affectionately call a dirt tan is a tan made of literal dirt. That's what they had. That's why I had to give them the specialty spa massage. I had to massage my balls, and I massaged them, revived them to their healthy green color. So I'm going to continue to hopefully do that. Marimo moss balls can actually live to 200 years, so they'll likely outlive me if I give them at least the bare minimum of proper care. So I've been testing out different things. On the Sunday night, I actually bathed them, added a bit of salt to their water, and refrigerated them. Now I think I'm just going to continue to allow them to rehabilitate. Different sources have different ideas. For example, I did propagate them by accident. In bathing them, one of them started to disintegrate, so then I just rolled up the disintegrated pieces into new balls. The balls are looking a little bit wild right now. They're unfurling a little bit, but that's okay, because the most important thing is that they're living. The shape of the Marimo is less important to me as long as they're healthy. The round shape is because in Lake Akan, Hokkaido, Japan, the ocean currents and the water currents push them along the bed, the water bed, and that's what gives them the round shape. But even if they're unfurled, even if they're unruly, they're still alive. That's all that matters. They're alive. That relates to the whole Butterface concept. Who gives a fuck what a Butterface is? That only matters if you tread on aesthetics for your self-worth. I tread on things other than that. I tread on my own happiness. So I'm always an Allerface? What would that be called? Butterface is supposed to be a slang derogatory term for a person who's hot in everywhere but their face. Butterface? Of course, with the way that the word rolls out, but her face, they imply it more for women than for men, but I can add men to the fun too. There's plenty of Butterface men as well. Who comes to mind? Who comes to mind easily? That's a good question. I'll come back to that. I'm sure there are many. In any case, who gives a fuck? Facial features, body shape, as long as you're healthy. Like the Maramos, you can be a ball, you can be a wild patch, just be healthy, that's all that matters. Be what you need to be to reach your goals. Now, of course, for some people, they actually do tread on their outward appearance. For example, if you're in Hollywood, if you're somehow a model actor, yeah, maybe that matters. If you're an athlete, maybe that matters. But that matters more for performance as an athlete than it does for your self-worth, unless you've, again, hitched your self-worth to fucking, or what the opposite sex, or whatever sex you find appealing, thinks of you. I only care about what I think of me, so that's why I've gone full thug rose again. A number of people have asked me if I'm Buddhist, if I'm Sikh, if I'm this, that, or the other. I'm just free. This is the most comfortable hairstyle I've ever had. To be completely honest, part of why I held off on doing this is because I intuitively knew that once I shaved, I would never go back to any other hairstyle, most likely. So before I shaved it, I had varying lengths of hair that I experimented with. I did everything I needed to do with that hair, including thrashing out to my rock music and performing an erotic photo shoot. Yes, those two things seem like polar opposites, but they both require the long, luscious hair to play that role. Now, could I still do an erotic photo shoot like this? Could I still thrash around to rock music like this? Of course I could. But there's something fun in playing to the stereotype. And I've done it. It was fun when it was fun. And then things actually became much more time-consuming than I wanted it to be. To be completely honest, I probably should have had this hairstyle even earlier, especially for my bush camping for 4 months in Africa, but it is what it is. Now, going forward, this is probably going to be the hair that I rock all the time. It's just freed up my life to think about other things. For example, baths are a breeze, easy peasy. I have no idea how I handled my hair down to my butt in sweaty ass Africa. I have no idea how I handled it. Somehow I did, and I had a lot of fun. But times are changing, and maybe it's more accurate to say times are going towards what I always thought they would. Once you've felt the comfort and freedom of this type of hairstyle, it's really hard to justify going back. For example, if I wanted to, I could just wear a wig and do whatever I want with a wig. So, really, when calculating the cost-benefit, this hairstyle wins all the time. Now, after I've had a brief rest, I'm gonna dance again. The jacket holds up during floor work, so I'm a happy camper. Sometimes I've also had to be cognizant of dirtying myself. Yes, the thing is that all of the costumes I only wear very briefly for less than an hour combined or so. I practice with the costume only the day of because I find it otherwise very restricting to practice with the costume for the whole week or two that I'm working on a new choreography. I like to practice in simple, comfortable clothing to ensure that I have the choreography down, second nature. Then I add the restrictive clothing for as much as I can manage, which has usually been just the day of my performances. That's worked out well enough. I'm sure in reviewing tape, I can always find ways to have improved myself, especially if I can compare to others who are professional choreographers. But there's the other side of me, the fun, spontaneous side, that's reminding myself that this is just a fun hobby. To be honest, my whole life is just one big maramos ball of fun. That's all it is. Do I have to be particularly good at anything? Do I have to meet any particular goal with anything? I'm as free as one could possibly be because I designed it that way. I pared my life down. All I have to think about is me. I have no responsibilities, and I like it like that because then I get to choose exactly what I want to do. No one around me can complain and claim my time. I'm just me, single old me, doing my own thing. That also means that my art just has to be itself. It'll do what it does, and that's what it'll do, okay? It'll do something, nothing, everything, who knows? The more important thing for me, and I've mentioned this so many times before, is that I just create art authentically. That's it, okay? Other people, other artists might have some sort of financial, economic formula that they integrate with their art. Then they somehow calculate what kind of art would yield better results for them in terms of money, in terms of audience, in terms of influence. I think none of that, and I think that shows in my art. If I cared even one bit, I think things would be different. But I do my own thing. I'm doing what I want to do, how I want to do it. I think at the very least, what should come through is my pure joy in dancing. That's something that I've noticed even in rewatching The Pandemic. I've been smiling a lot, I've been laughing a lot, and that's just natural to the process. As the pandemic seems to be moving into a new phase, I'll have to think about how to integrate some other activities back into my lifestyle, but I'll always have dance to fall back on regardless of what happens. In some ways, I've already mentioned that it's been a tough thing deciding what to do with some of the other adventure activities. The major one that probably will come the soonest is scuba diving. But scuba diving is something that I have struggled with, and I am struggling with how to integrate back into it. Yeah, I have to think about what to do. That'll probably require everything I've learned about calming oneself, about being competent. Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist's podcast, has helped me immensely over the year. I think this is my Huberman anniversary. When did Hubes first show up on Rogan? Rogan introduced me, Joe Rogan. I speak of Joe Rogan as if I know him. Maybe Joe Rogan, the prolific podcaster, is so prolific because he makes you think that he knows you. in any case, he introduced me to Andrew Huberman, and I've been integrating Huberman's techniques and tools for better living ever since. I think that all of his techniques have worked. I've also shown an extreme dedication to them beyond what I would have initially thought. But in any case, the point is, I'll have to grab at all of my collective knowledge to encourage me to do the things that I need to do. A lot of the other things have been easier because they require competence in a different way. Adventure traveling, yes, my life is still in my own hands, but it's a different set of skills. Scuba diving is uniquely a skill that requires everything, mind, body, all together in a way that's sometimes more than I can handle. I waver back and forth between whether I can handle it. I mean, technically I have the PADI open water license, so any questions I have should be answered already. I passed the international accreditation, and I passed in the most difficult dive circumstances in maybe the world. At least one of the top few difficult diving environments in the world is the lower mainland, because it's cold water diving. So what else can I do to prepare myself? I think it'll be a lot of visualization, but in a well-rounded sense. Partially, the visualization will have to be visualizing emergencies and how you would respond. I know that sounds like the opposite of what positive thinking philosophy would entail, but a number of extreme sports athletes do use visualization in the negative scenario sense, because that's one of the few places where you can think through what you would do in an emergency situation without having to be in the emergency situation. Of course, the PADI open water tests do test you on the emergency situations more than maybe even the skills portion, but it's still, to me, very little training. If you're relying on that little training to carry you through a difficult circumstance, I've no idea how people do it. To me, I think that PADI's standards are too low. That's just what I think. Maybe I have high expectations, but I think when your life is in your own hands, you really should have higher expectations. In any case, we'll round up the dancing, and then I'll get to thinking about how I integrate back into the adventure lifestyle. Or at least the outside adventure lifestyle. So many planes today. only hot because of that jacket. Otherwise, I feel good about the choreography, and the choreography feels good about me, I think. Woo! Woo! I'm sweating a storm. Ugh. Okay. In any case, I feel good about my progress. I just have to really think to myself, what's my plan of action to prepare myself for scuba diving? I should have a plan of action, and I will. I just want to give myself time to think, time to grow, and everything will work out if I allow myself the same landscape that I did pre-pandemic and post-injury rehabilitation. Whatever I've done has worked well for me, so I'm gonna continue doing it. What am I thinking about right now? Yeah, I'm feeling good, and everything's cool, calm and collected. My physiological sigh is on lock.